What's going on, Group Coach Nation? I got Darin Kidd with me today. Oh my gosh, Darren. I am truly, like I mentioned this before we talked, I am truly super excited that we get to hang out. You got a new book coming out, the way you help people overcome like real deal stuff and actually get real success. Dude, you're a genius at this thing. I hear. Okay, so just a little backstory here. Darren, hey, we'll introduce you in a second. I was on Darren's show recently, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Darin Kidd. Like, I get to be on his show because the person who's doing my branding and website coming up, it's not there live yet. That person keeps talking about this awesome Darin Kidd. And then we had like 7 or 8 mutual friends that are like in the coaching, consulting, like everything space that speak on huge stages. I'm like, they keep talking about, we like know so many people. I'm like, I get to hang out with Darin Kidd. Darren, thanks man for like 2 hangouts in a row. I'm lucky.
Hey, no, I feel very blessed. And if I could just get you to do me one favor, you mentioned that I was a genius. And if you could just tell my wife, we've been married 30 years. She still does not believe me when I tell her that. So I would really appreciate that support.
We'll tag her in the post-production and make sure this is all over her feed. If you want to just throw me some ad money, we'll just make sure she sees it a ton.
There we go. I love it. I love it. Well, man, it's an honor. Thank you so much for having me. You've done so many amazing things with so many people. So it is definitely an honor and a pleasure to be on your show.
Man, you've done a lot too. 5 kids, like we got that in common too. Best-selling author, global keynote speaker. You're rocking stages with tens of thousands of people on these days. You've shared some huge stages with some huge people. Just reading through stuff here, you're killing it, man. Like, okay, take me back like just a little bit of a step before. Let's just be honest, folks. Just because we're killing it today doesn't mean we were crushing it yesterday, and it doesn't mean we feel like we're crushing it today. I don't know about you, Darren, but sometimes, particularly when the world kind of feels upside down, which kind of seems like it always feels that way now, it's easy to feel like I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, it's all going to fall apart. And we go back to those moments that we used to have when it really was all falling apart, that probably many of our listeners are experiencing today. Take us back to, when was it falling apart? And not this comeback story for a Paramount movie, but like, how did you actually change your mindset first, or actions first, or what did you start doing to get stuff back in gear?
Yeah, and I think that's so critical for people to realize. They see the bios. When people see my bio or when I'm being introduced on stage, to be honest with you, I want to hurry up and get it out of the way, because I know people are probably thinking the same thing that I was thinking back 25 years ago, making all these excuses. Well, good for them. However, they don't know my story. Mm-hmm. And so when I walked into my wife and I, at the bedroom 25 years ago, and I closed the door behind us, and I'm walking by the windows, and there's sheets tacked on the windows because we couldn't afford mini blinds or curtains. And I walk over to our closet, and I pull out this big Coca-Cola, plastic piggy bank. And I told my daughter, put your money in there, and someday we'll go to Disney World. Someday. And my dad passed away 13 years ago on his deathbed saying, someday we'll do this and someday we'll do that. And someday never came. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I learned that someday leads to a town called nowhere. But I also learned that some people, some days are other people's every days. And so when I pull that out in the middle of the floor and I'm dumping this change, I still can smell that old change smell. And I'm going, man, if I can just get enough for bread and milk and peanut butter and just enough to last for a couple more days to feed my family. And my daughter walks in at that time, I forgot to lock the door, and sees daddy taking her money for Disney World and runs out crying. And there I was on my hands and knees going, God, how could I get this low to where I'm bankrupt, government assistance, my car's repossessed, I'm a college dropout, my wife's a college dropout. We live in a really small town. Everyone in their town knows that I'm a failure in life. Our house looks abandoned with the sheets tacked on the windows. I'm depressed. I went to the doctor. They put me on antidepressants that made me feel worse than the depression. And that was the moment, Chris, that it hurt bad enough. Sometimes it doesn't hurt bad enough. Like the old farmer on the porch, and he's in a rocking chair, and the neighbor's walking by and goes, hey, mister, under your porch, I can see your dog, and he's laying on a nail. And the old farmer goes, don't worry about it. When it hurts bad enough, he'll move. And sometimes we won't participate in our own rescue. That day, it hurt bad enough. And I walked in the other room. I go, I've had it. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. And whatever it takes, my family deserves better. They deserve more. And I'm going to make sure that I keep fighting. And I wrote on a 3x5 index card, I will until. And that's where my book came from, the title. And we can't change our life overnight, Chris, but we can dang sure change the direction of our life overnight.
Dang. Man, that's okay. That's inspiring. It's also the name of your book, IWillUntil.com, by the way, folks. I'm popping this up now because I had no idea about the story, by the way. I already have the website pulled up, so there's on the screen, IWillUntil.com. Darren, that's so, being in that moment is so real. Like I've been in that moment. I'm embarrassed to say this. I don't know that I've ever said this on this show. I've been in that moment 5 or 6 times as an adult, where I've hit another wall or come to another place where I'm sick of myself for business or for personal reasons or whatever. And that's honest, man. And I respect you saying that. And I respect that you did something about it. So you say I will until, and you write this thing down. What happens like a month later? You're like committed, you start doing stuff. When did you hit another wall? Did you burn out?
Well, the first thing I had to do was reframe the whole situation. So many times we look at failure or obstacles and we're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. When in reality, failure and success are not separate, they're together. The most successful people I've ever met are the biggest failures. But what they've done is they reframe it to the point they go, you know what? The obstacle leads to elevation. Without obstacles, there is no elevation. And it's not the easy times that make us grow, but we have to ask ourselves, because it's the quality of questions that we ask ourselves that determine the quality of our life. Bad questions get bad answers. And so when we go, how can I not just go through this? How can I grow through this? And so number one, I had to change my mindset. I had to, really work on that, because however old you are watching the show today, listening to the recording, if you're 35 years old, we think 70 to 90,000 thoughts a day. Most of them, our subconscious mind makes more decisions on a daily basis than our conscious mind. And so we have to think about what we're thinking about. And you can't expect a positive life with negative crap going into your head on a daily basis. So I had to reframe the challenges, going, okay, it's not the easy times that make us grow. I had to get very intentional, Chris, about the people that were around me. You show me your closest friends, I'll show you your circle. We catch what we're close to. So when I started seeking out, being very intentional about what I put into my head, okay, what I listen to, what I read, my associations, knowing that, look, our associations are like an elevator. They either take us up or they bring us down. So we have to ask ourselves, what are our associations doing to us, or what are they doing for us? And through that process, yes, it is an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, it is.
But
Dang.
you need those people in your life to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear as you're going through those times.
Okay, then well, hey, Spring, good to see you, by the way, Spring. I know the feeling. Yeah, right, Spring? I do too. Spring, by the way, is a great organizational leadership and change coach. I was on a call with her yesterday. Spring, great to see you. You and Darren should connect. Okay, so you're in this place. You're surrounding yourself with the right people. You're doing the right work. Were the people closest to you? I'm not trying to my wife's name is Jill. We talk about her quite a bit on here. She's freaking awesome. But hey, Jill and I are both real people. Okay. So when I'm having a hard time or life circumstances are hard around me, that impacts her. We've been together for a long time. And how the people around you handle the shift that you were going through personally, because sometimes we can be a little bit of a jerk when we step up big in our own life and then we crash and they're like, yeah, see, I told you. How the people close to you, who you would consider the 5 that you wanted to have around you, that you want to be most like, or how'd they handle this whole thing with you?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, because you let us know in the comments if you agree with this, if you're watching this live on on the show. We're in this box. And so when you get too low, the people that are closest to you will try to pull you back up. Hey, don't get too discouraged, Chris. Hey, it's going to be okay. But when you start to put your head above the crowd And I don't know all the reasons that this happens. One, I know because people feel insecure about themselves, and it makes them feel guilty because they're not willing to do what you're willing to do. But when you start to put your head above the crowd, that's when they start to take swings at you because you're in this box. They start to remind you of who you are. Your past does not equal your future. And you shouldn't look back unless that's the way that you want to go. You have to look where you want to go. Focus on where you're going, not where you've been. Because you move in the direction that you look. And so when I started to go, hey, look, we can have more, be more. Because Chris, I believe not everybody believes what I believe, and it's okay. I love them anyway. And that's kind of hard to believe these days. You can actually have different beliefs and still love one another, right? But I believe we're made in the image of our Creator. We're created for success, and the world programs us for failure. That every day on a daily basis, they want to tell us more about our limitations than our possibilities. And so when I started to go, man, we can have more, be more, and do more with our God-given potential, then they started to remind me of who I am. They started to keep you in that box. Darren, don't you remember who you are? You couldn't make it through college. You know, you're bankrupt, government assistance. They've repossessed your car. You're depressed. You can't even, I remember getting spiritual at the ATM going, please, God, let there be $20 in the bank because it won't let you take it out in any less than $20 increments. You don't think about those things until you have less than $20 in your bank account. And so here I am. They're going, don't you remember who you are? And that's when you have to make the decision, knowing whether consciously or subconsciously, they're taking your dreams. They're stealing from your family. So I had to tell those people either be positive or be quiet, because you can't have stinking thinking and continue to grow your business and grow yourself. And leadership is an inside-outside job. And so as I'm trying to reprogram that old programming and rewire the way that I think about things and fuel the positive and block the negative, if you can't, John Maxwell says, look, if you can't change people around you, you change the people around you. And so your circle will, some people in your life for a reason and some for a season. You have to love them, but you have to bless and release. So understand, not everyone is going to see your vision, your goals, your dreams, because that vision was given to you, not to them.
Ooh, wow. Such good advice, Darren. Like, for real. I wish I was taking notes. I have to go back and watch this. This is really good advice. How do you, oh man. Okay. We have on the screen here, and the title of this episode is Helping Clients Navigate Difficult Times. You're helping me navigate difficult times. How do you broach this subject? I mean, we're just right here blasting it out. If you're listening, I'm so sorry. We're coming straight at you. But if we all have clients, and we all feel like sometimes we would be doing better if our clients were doing better, whatever. How do you, yeah, right? Spring. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, this is legit stuff right here. How do you actually go back and tell someone? How do you tell me? Tell Chris Williams. How do you tell me how to talk to my clients about these difficult things? How do I motivate my clients to step into a new place, step up, be who they need to be? I'm not a motivational speaker like you. I'm not good at just turning a crowd and being like, everybody's like, heck yeah, I want to go. How do I do this?
Well, I mean, number one, how many of you have ever felt like unmotivated or burned out? And I was very fortunate for over a decade to have, a billionaire mentor, the late billionaire Paul J. Meyer, who, if you ever read John Maxwell's stuff, which I know a lot of you that are watching the show or listening, you know who John Maxwell is, because that's this tribe, right? Well, in his book, he goes, look, the day that changed my life was the day that someone said, what is your personal plan for growth? And I didn't have one. And they presented him with one of Paul Meyer's programs, and he talks about how he sacrificed for months eating and vacations to save the money, and that's what changed his life. So I was having dinner with John Maxwell at his house a couple years ago, and I go, hey, John, a mentor of mine for many years, had so many great things to say about you. And when I told him Paul Meyer, he stopped the whole table. He's like, oh my gosh, I still have the program. I just took it on stage with me not too long ago. Well, this guy was a mentor of mine, 40 companies, 60 countries, billions of dollars in revenue. But what's even more powerful is that he paid for over 1,000 kids a year to go to college. When I was with him, he had given away $400 million to charity. At that point, he passed away over a decade ago at 80 some years old. One of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. But he goes, look, you're not burned out. You're not unmotivated. You've lost clarity. Clarity gives you focus, and focus gives you energy. And the clearer the picture of your future, what thou seest, thou beest in your head. If you can't see it in your head, you can't hold it in your hand, right? The late great Bob Proctor. If you can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. If you can envision it in your head. And so when he goes, what thou seest, thou beest, when you have that clear picture, that clarity, that gives you focus, that gives you energy. So it starts with going, look, what do you really want? Because we magnetize the condition that we seek. And anything that we ever achieve and we ever win, we achieve and win in our head first. So helping them go through, I've had what I call the LTL method, lift the lid method.
Okay.
And the way that I came up with that, because I learned it doesn't matter what you know. Knowledge, we've heard knowledge is power. That's not true. It's potential power, but if you don't do anything with it, it does you no good. Knowledge plus action equals power. But I don't care how much you know, how many courses you take, how many masterminds you're a part of. And I'm a believer in all of that because we have all of that, right, Chris?
Right.
But if you don't lift that invisible lid in your own head, you will never get past your self-imposed limitations. It's not what goes on around you as is important what goes on within you. So anything you ever achieve and you ever win, you achieve and win in your head first. So if you have that invisible lid, and every time you start to go to that next level, people call it the internal thermostat. If you feel like I'm a 75-degree person, you're going to self-sabotage. You're going to bring it right back down. So if you've ever said to yourself, man, how do I keep, no matter what I do, I just get by, or I always feel like I'm stuck at this point. And Chris, being completely transparent, I tell people I'm a hot trainer. Okay. And there are people that lean into the camera and go, no, you're not that hot, Darren. I'm not talking about that kind of hot. HOT, hot, open, honest, and transparent. There are times when I went from broke to making hundreds of thousands or millions to where you can be broke at a higher level. Because I didn't feel worthy. There were people around me that I felt guilty that I was making money and traveling the world and creating these amazing experiences with my kids and, just loving my life and couldn't wait to do it every day. And there are people around me that weren't willing to do what we're willing to do. And so if you feel like you're only worthy of a certain level, that invisible lid, you're always going to come back to where you are. So it's getting clarity in what you really want, helping them raise that internal that invisible lid in their own head, and then set their goals and help them with an action plan.
Dang, man, you're like, I mean this sincerely, you're really challenging me right now. You really are. I like, you're making me think about my own limits that I have in my head. And what I'm coming up with here, Darren, is my limits aren't your limits, and they're not my clients' limits, and they're not my next door neighbor's limits. They're my limits. And some might look at me and be like, wow, Chris has no limits, he's crushing it. And some might look at me and be like, dang, why are you playing so small? That limit is, though, it's really about me and where I'm at and where I want to, what my vision is, not comparing to someone else. And the reason I'm saying you're challenging me is because I go through phases where I hit the goals I want to hit, and then I kind of just, I don't know, I'm good. And I forget to get out there and stretch. And so I get complacent and I get lazy, and that starts impacting my team, and it starts impacting my family. And it might not be in the checkbook, but it might be in the other areas of life that really start to matter. And dang.
Comfort zones. Comfort zones are designed to keep us safe. They look at sameness as security. And so anytime we start to think differently, do something, it looks at it as dangerous. And so everything that you ever want is outside of your comfort zone. And what's crazy, thank you, Spring. And what's crazy is that, I'll give you a couple examples. If you really study the power of the mind, your brain didn't know the difference of reality. And a lot of people have taught this for a long time. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and you have Paul J. Meyer, but now they have the science to prove that your brain didn't know the difference of reality and what you tell it. So this is why it's so important to have clarity. So when you visualize an experience, your brain, your body produces the same chemicals and endorphins as if the experience actually happens. It encodes the visualization as a memory. And we're our own pharmacy. So if how many people do you know that are addicted to drama? And if there's no drama, they create it because we get addicted to that rush, our own drugs. And so why is it important to visualize what you want, not what you don't want? Because what you focus on, you attract. And this is what the billionaire meant when we magnetize the condition that we seek. Thoughts are things. What you think about and you speak about, you bring about. And so when we start to really pay attention to the power of our thoughts and our words, the way and people go, Darren, what is your superpower? I think one of my superpowers, I love to take complicated and make it simple because that's who I am, right? I mean, someone that talks way above everybody's head. I just like to man, there are things that have taken me a decade, 2 decades, multiple 6 figures in my education to finally get. I'm like, why the heck didn't you just say it like this? So I could have gotten it a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
But the way I look at it is our thoughts and our words. We're painting tomorrow today. And I've had this conversation recently with my kids again, going, listen, be very careful. Your words don't come back void. You send them on a mission and they go to accomplish that mission. You can't go, why did I get an orange when I planted? Well, because you planted an apple seed. And you don't just get one apple. You get an apple with a bunch of seeds. You get a tree with a bunch more apples. So be very careful what you think about and what you focus on and the people around you, because you catch what you're close to. So when, and if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I like to be with people that scare the heck out of me, that make me nervous. The conversations are above my head because it forces me to raise that waterline, to raise that invisible lid in my own head to go to the next level. And once you expand it, Chris, I got a friend of mine in South Carolina. He's an old country boy, but he won all these business awards and made millions. And he's like, your mind is like an old pair of underwear. Once you stretch it, it never goes back.
This episode just got explicit, man.
That's deep thinking right there, right?
I love that. Okay, I got another question. Do you mind? Can
Absolutely.
Okay.
I love it. If we can impact one person, man, it's a win.
Yeah, heck yeah. Here's, by the way, I will until there's Darren's book on the screen. Like, folks, this is freaking the real deal. Like, Darren, thank you for bringing what you do on stage and with super large audiences internationally. Well, first of all, thanks for bringing it to Group Coach Nation, and thanks for putting it in something like this book where we can actually like just get real, usable stuff. Like, dude, thank you so much. Okay, my next question is, I'm like, forgive me for playing like a little bit skeptical here, but come on, we're all real here. We hear people like you talk sometimes. All of us do. We're like, yes, mindset change. I got to believe in this stuff. I got to go for it. I got to do this stuff. I got to teach my clients to believe differently, whatever. But where does that shift of belief change happen? And then the next step, which you've already mentioned it, you can't just have knowledge. There has to be application, action. Like, we got to do stuff. How do you help people with that too? Like, okay, you've made the shift. Well, I believe something, Darren, but now what do I do about it? I don't know what to do next.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, it's important to have the right people in your life speaking into you, because a blind spot is called a blind spot for a reason. It's blind to us. Les Brown says, look, you can't read. It's hard to read the label when you're in the box, and it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. And so having someone, I just had a company that it's a tax company. They do tax strategy and all these other things. And you're like, man, why would they hire, Darren to come in? It's a tax company, because he goes, look, I want someone that thinks outside the box.
Because you're not a CPA, you're not a tax guy, whatever. You just,
No. But I know how to grow businesses. I know how to grow people. I know how to challenge your thinking, help you think outside the box, come up with a strategy. Hey, listen, let's go out here and let's move the needle in your business. So it comes with helping them set their goals and then identifying the KPIs, the key performance indicators. What are the things that are going to move the needle? Peter Drucker talks about it's not how much we can do, but it's the effectiveness of what we do. So what are those things? And then being very intentional about structuring your day, structuring your activities, the Pareto principle, the 20-80, right? The 80-20 rule. And then also with you, because leadership is an inside-outside job, how do we create the habits and rituals in your life? Because we're very rarely going to ever feel like doing the things, or your clients, they're not going to feel like doing it. But at first we create our habits and our rituals, then they create us. So yeah, helping them with that plan, and then being able to measure. Performance measured is performance improved. How can we track? We can't manage what we don't measure. Inspect what we expect, however you want to say it. But we need a system of measuring and accountability to push us outside of that comfort zone.
Oh, it's so good, dude. This is such great advice. We can take everything you're telling us and apply it for ourselves. We can also take all of this and flip it over and say, here's what we should be doing for our clients. Here's how we should be impacting their belief systems. And here's we should be helping them read the label from outside the bottle or box, as you said. Yeah. Man, Darren, thank you. Okay. Last question for you. By the way, folks, again, if you want the website, it's right there on your screen. I'll read it for you listeners. iwilluntil.com. iwilluntil.com. I will until whatever, you fill in the blank, right? This is a good book. And Darren's website's awesome. I just showed on the screen. He's got so much information for you. Just get unstuck. And if you're unstuck yourself and you're trying to figure out how to unstuck you and your clients or your organization, awesome place to start, because this is a simple, straightforward path for how to make these shifts happen. Okay. Darren, last question. When you get, let's just be again honest here. I really appreciate you letting me ask you real questions. No BS here.
100%.
When you get stuck, today's Tuesday, we're recording this. When you get stuck on a Wednesday, because you still wake up crappy some days, what do you do? Like, what is your actual, is it a morning routine? Is it what you do the night before? Is it kind of a practice throughout the day? What do you do to get yourself out of the hole when you're feeling like shit and you got to come back and step up?
Oh, man, that's such a great question. You're a great interviewer. You have great questions, which, there's a reason you have the reputation that you do, and you've served so many people. So thank you. I found out a long time ago that if we count on the way we feel, we're never going to do it. That's why psychologists have proven it's easier to act your way into a feeling than feel your way into acting. Like that motion creates emotion. I used to get up and watch Bad Morning America while I drank my coffee. You're like, Darren, isn't it Good Morning America? No, it's Bad Morning America. It's nothing good about it. If it bleeds, it leads. And they know that. And now the studies show that in the first 3 minutes of your day, if you engage in negativity on social news, whatever it is, there's a 27% increase in the chance at the end of the day, you will go, I had a terrible day. So what I do, as soon as my feet get out of bed, it's an attitude of gratitude. Thank you, God, for another day. Guess what? I woke up. You're not done with me yet. I drink water, 20 ounces of water, hydration. This is when I go into my purpose development. And again, you do what works for you. This is what works for me. This morning, it was a message from either Rick Warren or whoever I listen to on a daily basis, right? The Purpose-Driven Life author. He's a pastor. But then on the way to coffee shop, I listen to my devotion app on the audio version. And then I get to my office and it's personal development. So the first hour and a half of my day is all positivity. I'm fueling the positive. I'm blocking the negative. You can't say, don't think of a pink elephant. You think of a pink elephant. If you have a dirty glass of water, you displace the dirty with the clean under a faucet. Eventually it displaces all of that. Throughout the day, I have my success environment set up, pictures of my family, YouTube videos of Hawaii and Disney and screensavers on my phone, because we check our phone an average of, I've seen 344 to over 400 times a day. Your subconscious is always recording. I've got music playlists that keep me jamming. I use the Pomodoro method during the day. Every 25 minutes, I take a 5-minute break, because after 10 minutes, your attention span starts to peak. So if you go for 2 hours, it's declining for an hour and 50 minutes. So if I use the Pomodoro method, I take a 5-minute break every 25 minutes. In 2 hours, it's peaked 4 times. And during those breaks, I'll do push-ups, air squats, drink water. So I change my physiology, which optimizes your mental capacity, your energy. So by the time I go to the gym at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I've done a couple hundred push-ups. I've done 100 plus air squats. I've stretched. I'm hydrated. And then last thing real quick, without going through everything else, but at night, when I take my second shower after I've worked out, what you listen to, what you read, what you think about, what you focus on before you go to bed, you marinate on for the next 6 to 8 hours while you sleep. So if I can start my day the right way, end my day the right way, I can handle my day a lot better. Right. So those are the few things that I do on a daily basis. So I don't give myself a lot of time. So when I feel stuck, clarity gives you focus. Focus gives you energy. I focus on my habits and my rituals. So on a daily basis, it's not up to how Darin Kidd feels. What does feeling like it have to do with going out and impacting people and making a difference and taking care of our family? And so first we create those habits and rituals, then they create us.
This is so legit. Like, you didn't just give us a riddle that was really hard and complicated to figure out. You gave us stuff that was really straightforward and practical. Like, okay, iwillintil.com is Darren's website for his book. So much other information. He speaks, he does books. He's a world-renowned speaker. I mean, he is what he is. He's speaking on huge platforms, spreading this message. And what's so cool about this, Darren, is that it's not hard to pick up and do. You just laid out your day, and none of it was complicated. You've just super intentionally wrapped your world in the direction you want to go, so that when you do trip, like we all do, you fall into a great spot instead of falling into crap. That's just,
we all fall off the wagon. You just learn to get back on a little bit quicker. We all get stuck. We all get frustrated. I mean, that's normal. I'm in masterminds and speaking at events where one guy's company did 30-some billion. One guy's worth 700 million. And they all have the imposter syndrome. They all talk about their self-doubts and their struggles. And what I'm finding is most of the successful people that I meet, they're the most insecure. They struggle with it the most, which is why they're out to prove something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dang. There it is, Group Coach Nation. Darin Kidd. Darren, thank you. I've truly learned a lot today. You've given me very simple, actionable things to do to actually make real change happen in my life. Thank you. iwillintil.com is the place. Darren, any last words for us?
No, I would just say, hey, everybody, the last thing that I will leave you, and I'll try not to get emotional with this, but the last 3-4 years have been some of the most challenging of my life. I had multiple surgeries, almost died with appendicitis. My nephew at 24 and his wife and 11-month-old twins had a house fire. My nephew and one baby did not make it.
Oh my gosh.
My mom died unexpectedly a year and a half ago at 67. I'm a mama's boy, talk to her at least twice a day, ate with us every night. When my dad passed away, I go, Mom, as long as God puts breath in my body, I'm going to make the rest of your life the best of your life. That's my goal. And so I'm not trying to bring everybody down. But when my mom I had to make the decision to unhook the ventilator. And I go, man, she's dying empty in a good way, not a bad way. She loved everyone. She gave everything. If that was me, would I be ready? And the answer was no. I'm like, thank God that's not me, because I'm not done yet. And I keep thinking we have time. Someday we'll do this and someday we'll do that. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So whether you're 99 like my wife's grandfather over a decade ago when he passed away, you're 11 months old like my nephew's little baby, or 24 like my nephew, or 67 like my mom, we do not know how much time we have. So treat every day as if it's the last day of our life, and one day we're going to be right. And we need to have that urgency to do as much good as we can to as many people as we can, as long as we can. So that is my last words of encouragement to you. Don't put off anything, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And you were put here with a purpose, and you have that feeling, right now I'm talking to you. If you have that feeling deep down inside going, you know what, I know I was created for more, then I encourage you to act on it immediately.
Thank you, Darren. Group Coach Nation, we always say do work, get results. Do work, get results. Get it. iwillintil.com. Darren, thank you for actually making a shift in my own mind and heart today. I truly appreciate that. Group Coach Nation, get it. Darren, thank you. Reach out to Darren, iwillintil.com, and get more of this. We all need it. See you, bud.